I want to be the best in the game, invest in my name, check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain.
What is happening, everyone? So welcome to the first ever in-person KDH podcast. It's been a long time awaiting. I was actually on one of my clients' in-person podcasts yesterday, so it's a bit weird for me looking, do I look here, do I look there, where do I look? But today we're joined by Grant and Ross for the first ever in-person KDH podcast. And today's podcast, I don't even know what number it is because I don't have my notes in front of me right now. But basically it's going to be called Gettin AFF IT and Getting On It for Good. So guys, like, how he's doing and what's been happening? Yeah.
Just for having us on, mate, first of all.
That's
Do you know what? I didn't realise this is your first in-person podcast. I thought it was your first podcast.
No. First
I put
in-person.
a post up yesterday saying buzzing to be on the first episode of the KDH podcast. You're like, no, it's not.
How you doing, mate?
Aye, no, really good, mate. No, I'm buzzing to be on as well. It's funny being on the other side there.
Being the
'Cause
receiving
normally
end,
I've been the receiver. Because normally it's us interviewing, so it'll be a bit strange getting questions fired at us.
No. So like we obviously met through the mentorship that we are part of as well, community of coaches, and obviously I've been following you guys, and I really like what you are doing in regards to the type of people that you just try to obviously help, and a bit of a journey about what you have been through. So to give everyone a bit of an insight, guys, like let us know about you, like what's your story and how did that kind of get you to doing what you are doing now. So if you want to start off, mate.
I'll go. Grant always just waits for me to talk.
I let him crack on. He likes talking.
So I mean, we were just talking before we came in here, man. Like we've been through a kind of sort of quite a relatable and typical journey that a lot of guys go through. I would say like probably in the UK, but maybe even more so in like the west of Scotland, where kind of go to uni and get a job and life's pretty good, man. You've got no responsibilities and you enjoy your social life a lot, and then kind of as we kind of gradually get older and stuff like that, life has more responsibilities, but we never really left that kind of social side of things behind, and it was almost kind of like a bit of like a clash between two sides of your life, like kind of still enjoying your weekends, still enjoying like partying and getting mad with and all that kind of stuff, but also at the same time wanting to do well. And like we would probably both say we're quite ambitious guys, have been for several years, but then gradually through time, like we've been on a bit of a journey of kind of trying to leave those kind of old sort of destructive habits behind and do better. And obviously like over that time we made a lot of mistakes, and it's not an easy process, it's a gradual process, but hopefully now I would say we're probably getting to a stage where we have kind of progressed a bit and done a lot of kind of self-development and working on ourselves to the point where we're gradually kind of shifted and left a lot of those bad habits behind and doing better. And essentially what that's done is let us create a business that helps other guys who guys who want more from life than just the typical work all week, get mad with it every weekend. Guys that want more than that and want to find out how to do it, but maybe just don't quite have the confidence and self-belief to do that type thing. And that's kind of the journey that we've been through, and we basically now teach guys how to essentially do better for themselves, realise their ambitions, get more from life, man. So
No, that's a good insight, and I can totally relate to that. And the biggest thing that I can relate to as well, Ross, is the gradual. It's not an instant thing, and I think the mistake a lot of folk make is that they think it's going to be like start the gym, get into this fitness thing.
Guys especially, guys think they're Superman. Like I'm going to change the world in 1 week, and it's like, no, you're not.
And it's not to say that those destructive behaviours are good, bad, right or wrong, but it's just to say that if you've been living a certain way for a certain period of time, you've been doing it for that long, it is hard to just expect that you're going to just instantly change overnight, because you're not. And the thing is, it's like, and I think that was something I was guilty of for a long time, and especially when I became a coach, was like, I was like, I shouldn't be living like this, I shouldn't be getting mad with it, I shouldn't be, like, you're in this sort of state of denial. And then it wasn't until I started being like, no, this is who I am, and I'm not saying I'm someone that lives like this, but it's just like, stop trying to force to be someone in it. That's the hardest part, and is it? And I can totally relate to that gradual part. So are you a bit of the same, Grant, your story?
Mate, my story, like mine's is quite long-winded. Well, not long-winded, but like I grew up like from like Ross went to uni from school. I went and done a lot of weird jobs. Like I worked in a lot of I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was a scaffolder, worked in the trespass shop at one point. And I remember when I worked in that, I used to try my heart out to stay away from the door, because I was like, this is social suicide for me if I get seen in here. So I used to try and hide in the back. And the guy would always like, where is Grant? And I'd be up the stairs like hiding away, trying to... But I done a lot of jobs like that. And then I always tell a story like that. I was on like similar to what Ross said. I always knew I wanted more for life. I was maybe like 21. I was on a building site. And I was just sitting, and it was absolutely hosing it down with rain. And I was like, this is so bad. And I was like, I hate this. And I was just kind of sitting, and I was sitting on a roof, and I was just kind of looking a bit. I was in the middle of Govan, and I was like, fuck this. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I just went down and quit. I just walked off and just went, mate, I'm not coming back. And the guy was a bit like, what do you mean? What? I walked to my cousin, and he's like, what do you mean you're not coming back? And I was like, fuck this, mate. I was like, I'm away. And I just left. And then from there, see what we're talking about, that gradual change. I left, and I was like, the only thing I know that I always like training. I always like PE in school. And I was like, I need to just do something to do with that. And then quite quickly, I went to college, done like sports therapy at college. And then from there, just went on this big, massive journey. But I went in, started PT. Let's see, something like what you said, went through this phase of I can't drink, can't do anything, like I need to be. And then I kind of went back to drinking again, but far too much. And like lost, like to the point, like we kind of talk about like not long, like the process of getting to the gym, like we kind of lost the plot a wee bit for a while. And then everything just kind of came together and went on this massive journey from, I mean, this was, God, 13 years ago it started, to being here now. And like it's always been, see what we're talking about, it's like small changes. Like I always knew where I wanted to go, but sometimes like I feel like you're just not ready sometimes to make certain changes, even though you know you want to.
100%. I think the part where like these shifts, folk think they're going to be seismic. Folk think they're going to be like, as you said, they're going to change the world. And it's almost like folk are so disheartened by that. Like either they've maybe dropped a load of body fat, they've changed things, but they're like, why am I not feeling this way yet? Why am I not like getting hundreds of engagement in socials? Why am I not getting on? Like it's almost like, it doesn't work like that. It just changes over time, and you just gradually start to see. But then you get those moments, those fuck it moments, the moments where you go on the site where you're like, nah, no me. And for me, it was like when I was in Ibiza and I just came back and then quit, left the military. I just put my notice as soon as I got back. I put my notice in. I had to put in a 6-month notice though. But it was like just that sort of moment of like, fuck this. Like at that, and I think like success happens from two places: desperation or inspiration. And I think that's like a moment of desperation, and you get these sort of pillar moments in your life that, like what we're doing right now. And I think when you tell a story, you always end up exaggerating a bit. So I always try and keep it as true as I can.
Make yourself look and sound much better.
But I always try and make a point of being like, never exaggerate those points. Just stay true to them, because everyone has them as well. And I think sometimes you're ashamed of those points as well. Like I used to be scared to say things that didn't even happen that long ago, but now I'm always very open. Like I'll cringe at something that I done just 6 months ago. Like I'll cringe probably at the intro of this podcast in months to come. Do you know what I mean? Like it'll be like, oh, I should have said this, should have done this. But at the end of the day, like everything that you're doing in the now in it is what counts. It's just that sort of that constant like drive forward to make sure you're better and better. But I still like, what's the, obviously like we met through as you becoming coaches online as well, like what I'm doing as well. And what was the sort of transition? What was the pivotal moment in going from the gym? Where was the gym at? And like, obviously you started this gym, you built it up, it was doing well and everything. And then what was the sort of point where it was like, what was your fuck this moment?
I mean, there's if the fuck this moments are dead interesting, because actually see when you look back in stories and stuff, like I always think that's when the big changes happen, when there's that moment where you've maybe been thinking about something for ages and you know what you need to do, but you're scared, so you procrastinate, and then the minute you just go fuck this, that's always the big turning points with stuff. And that was definitely what happened with like the gym and stuff. Like we were PTs for years, man, and we had like it's funny how like what you think's going to be amazing, you realise that, and then it's maybe not as good, so then you want something different, you're constantly changing and stuff. So we were PTs for years, and we at first I thought the dream would be to have like 40 clients or 40 sessions a week. Got that, and I was like, I'm so tired, man, like I hate this. So then it's like, what we need to do now is get a gym. So we got a gym. That made us even more tired and it made us even more stressed as well, because not only was there was even more clients, there was even more responsibility, there was staff and all this kind of stuff, and we were like, this is so hard, man. And when we got to a stage, it's kind of like, this is not as good as we thought. And then it was just kind of like, this is not going to satisfy what we need in terms of like, you almost kind of like you realise what you don't want, and then it kind of showed us what we do want. And for us, like a big part of that was there's quite a few things, would you know, say, like some of it's like having your own kind of freedom, some of it's being able to help people better as well. Like what we kind of found with the gym was the workouts were great and stuff like that, and we helped a lot of guys get great results, but it was limited to the workouts and stuff. Whereas Now we're in a position where we can help people with the stuff that they actually need help with.
Yeah.
And it's like motivation, their mindset, their habits, their lifestyle, and all that kind of stuff.
I think that's the trouble with, it's not a trouble as such, but like you, as you said, like I got great results when I was a face-to-face coach, when I was, and I'm not bashing it, like it's ultimately made us the coaches that we are and all those lessons. And it's not
Definitely.
like, it's not an evolutionary point where it's like you have to do this, then this. But what ends up happening, I think, unless you're clear on it, because I was never clear on it. So I suppose you could argue that if you were clearer on it, then that wouldn't happen. But the trouble is people just get into the habit that they're buying time.
Yeah.
And it's almost like sessions, time. If I do this, but it's like they're only adding on rather than actually changing. So they're making changes by adding stuff on, but they're not looking at
That's an interesting way of looking at it, man.
anything else, and they're not stripping it back and making those changes, but they're just stacking things on top of it, which is ultimately is a catalyst still for growth. Because even when I was back in the military, when I was 21, 20 years old, I was a fit guy, went to the gym, but my life was a shambles. Doesn't make it okay, but it doesn't also make it bad. It doesn't make, do you know what I mean? It's like one of those things, but the changes I actually had to make was like more than, it was more about like, why am I actually in this position rather than just adding things on. And I'm not saying that like adding training on won't help. Obviously it did, and it made me the position I was in and stuff like that. But it's like, you need to really look at, strip things back and go, whereas if you're an online coach, I feel that you can really be clear on like, look, we're going to be looking at everything. I am here round the clock. Whereas folk kind of go, right, this is part of my life now. Whereas I think sometimes when it's
still rather than just doing a few workouts and then your life at the weekend doesn't tie in with what you're trying to achieve type thing.
Yeah.
All these kind of things. Something I think is very interesting, see, talking about kind of doing certain things and then maybe not working out and learning lessons. Like I think so many people who maybe want to change their lives and all that kind of stuff are scared of making mistakes. And it's funny when we look back, we have made so many mistakes, man, made loads of stuff, but it's really interesting, but because it's almost like we had to make those mistakes to learn a thing to eventually get to a point that you want to get to, and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes it's just like you don't know if it's going to be right. You just need to do something.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing that you can do, is manage expectations, so that when you are doing something, the mistake a lot of people get into is where they're going into something, and I always say to anyone, it's more guys, I train guys and girls, but more guys, and you know this, the all or nothing mindset, where they go in.
Yeah, totally.
And even though you're telling them and they're flying, you know that they're not living their life to their truest values. Like they're literally, they've cut out any food that they would class in their head as bad. Do you know what I mean? They have literally cut that out. So the minute it's almost like a trigger point. You know that when someone's going to do that, it's almost like, so
set up to fail.
It's going to, so it's actually saying to someone like from the get go, like manage your expectations. You just need to keep showing up in every sense. Because if you do that, like you're going to hit low points, you're going to hit points where it's bad. And it's the same what you were talking about in your business. Like the fact that you just kept showing up, you were able to actually see where you wanted to go, and now you're in the position you're in now. So like obviously your cellmate, you're going traveling soon as well.
Gone a week tomorrow.
That's why we have to rush this and squeeze it in, man.
Mate, it's weird. Like, see what we're talking about. Like, this was, see, when we had the gym and stuff, like, one of the things, like, we were obviously talking about habits, but something that we realised, see, if you're doing a lot of personal development, this is something that a lot of people maybe don't understand. Like, see, like, understanding what you actually value and what you want your life to be like. Because we just thought, like, see, we talk about, like, the natural progression. See, as a PTs to go, then get a gym, and then, like, keep getting busier and busier and busier. And then when we done it, we're like, why are we not getting happier here? And I think that's what a lot of people do. They just chase more. Yeah. And we were like, we don't want more. We want freedom. Like we want the ability to be able to like impact people. Like see when we looked, like we've done things where we actually learned our values and we realised that like, see what Ross was talking about, like training people in person, like wasn't helping us meet their values. Like we want to be able to help people in like a big scale. And it's like,
there was a time when we wanted 3, 4, 5 gyms and hundreds of clients. And as we were kind of working towards that, we're like, this isn't what we want. And it almost took like, see, making the mistake to learn the lesson and learn what you value, but you never learn really what you value unless you just do stuff, unless you just try stuff, man, and make mistakes. And I'm like, right, okay, well, this has made me realise this, so pushes you further forward and stuff.
And I think that's when like, so like, if us three people just have a conversation, even out with this podcast, we would talk about mistakes so casually. And we would talk about it, and it wouldn't even be in a bad. It would be like, oh, I don't know if it was a disaster, but if, like you would be talking about it. But then I done this, and you'd be laughing. Whereas when you talk to someone that's maybe in that point where they haven't been leaning into change, or they're just not used to it, the first time something doesn't go their way, it's catastrophic. Do you know what I mean? It's actually to the point where Like, I don't think I can do this. Like this. And the funny thing is, I tell clients about it as well, and they still convince themselves when it happens that you don't understand.
Aye.
You don't understand. You're like, no, I do understand.
Trust me, mate.
You need like you need to just keep going, because this is normal. And like that's like, I think that's the sort of thing now. And this was something that Jordan Peterson said. I've mentioned this loads, and it was basically like, it's as if folk are chasing this life to be a big baby on their back, and just be like this easy street. Do you know what I mean? Like, that'll be it. Sipping on cocktails. Like,
not
oh, I'll be
gonna happen,
happy
man.
when I'm there. And you're like, you won't be though.
Aye.
Like, you won't be, because you won't have any purpose. You'll feel like just dull. You probably have mental health issues because you've been drinking every day. And that's the thing. It's like folk are chasing this. It's like, whereas, like, I think that's the thing that folk are in. It's this sort of misunderstood. Like, we were talking about it even before. Like, the way that like society is, like, get a job, that's it, sorted.
Work
And
your way up, like
work
do
your
more hours, get like, and it's just like and the higher you go, the more stressful it gets. And
I heard an analogy once by a guy, Paul Motley, we used to work with, and he was saying he kind of got to that stage in life where he would end up really unhappy, but he had loads of money and all that kind of stuff, and he was like,
He's a millionaire, wasn't he?
Aye, and he was like climbing this ladder, but it was like the problem was the ladder was against the wrong building, so I got to the top of it, and I was like, fuck, this is not what I
I've made
wanted
an
at
arse of
all.
this.
Aye.
Crazy that, innit? When you actually see, and it's like that's the thing. Like, and it's that sort of, the saying goes that money doesn't bring you happiness. Like, it alleviates a load of stress in other areas,
Yeah.
but if you're doing something that doesn't bring you happiness and you've got loads of money, then that just also equals a load of stress. Because I don't think people realize that when you start to make more and more money, it comes with responsibilities, whether that be paying more people,
Paying more tax.
yeah,
man.
paying more tax, like investing into more things, or like, do you know what I mean, like systems,
Yeah.
like
And I think, see, if you get to a stage where you earn X amount of money, I think I've heard a couple of people that are quite wealthy say there is no difference in your life between earning this amount and this amount. Your life's exactly the same.
I think it's actually like a point. Is that there's an actual like number that folk get to, and it's actually proven that like
happiness doesn't. Aye.
nothing will change beyond like a certain point.
Aye.
But I suppose that that's also the thing. Like, it's like, if you're doing something you truly love, it aligns with your values. Money's a goal within that. Because maybe you have a business that obviously earns money through doing what you do passionately, then it's important to set things, but that's not the be all and end all. That's just a marker. And that's because the reason why I'm saying that is I think sometimes I wouldn't want anyone to say, don't focus on developing your business then, because 100% that's like suppose it's like folks saying, oh, it's not all about how you look. So folk just drop the ball with chasing strength goals and fitness goals and all that. So it's like, well, you need to, these are, I suppose, though, goals. I think like the way you need to look at it with your sort of who you are and your values is like living an ethos that you're never, it's more of a mentality. Like, even this morning going to the gym, I was joking about getting my COVID booster the other day, and I got it, and under my armpits were quite sore this morning. See, like my glands under my they're pretty sore this morning, and just a bit of inflammation. I woke up and I felt a bit groggy and that, and I was like, went to the gym, and I was there and I was pure telling myself wee stories going, you're going to be weak today, you're going to be weak, we'll just cut the session a wee bit shorter.
Caught in your own head.
And I just was like, man, I went like that, I went, nah, that's just a load of shite you're talking right now. And I went, and I was just sitting and I had this, I came back and I was speaking to Ailey about it when I was having breakfast, and I got back and I was like, the difference between someone who just does really well is that they will always show up. And I still had a brilliant session, and it's like, that's the difference. It's like, because those stories are always going to be there. Do you know what I mean? Like, to creep in to tell you that it's not working, but I suppose you always have to have those things that you're working towards, and understand that along the way that even though I'm living in line with my highest values right now, I was pretty low this morning in the sense that, like,
absolutely.
so it's almost like folk go, what, is it not right then? So I shouldn't be feeling this way. And you're like, you're a human. Like, you
should be feeling this way. You talked about it yesterday on
it was
Instagram.
I went a run yesterday, and this is one of the things I spoke about. I was like, so I've been watching, like, we watch a lot of guys who on stories and stuff, and we see a lot of people posting that they're training all the time. And I'm like, yesterday was my first workout this year, but I, like, similar, mate, I got up and I'm like, can't be fucked with this. And I like the whole point I was making in the video was like, you might be flying just now, but trust me, the days are about to start where you're like, I don't want to do this. And what happens with all guys, we've seen this a million times, is that they think, what is up with me? Why am I not as motivated as I was in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th of January? And it's like, it's just part and parcel of change.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't, you don't just show up every day busting to go. It's hard.
And that, see, the thing that me and Ailey were talking about as well, the other day we were talking about, like, I haven't drank in like 5 weeks. I'm not going to drink for the first quarter of the year, I said. And then, well, I'm going away to Spain in March, so I'm undecided yet. I was actually writing about this the other day going, when will I actually drink again? And I was like, maybe March, but definitely no January, February. But like, my sleep was on point. Like, I'm so tired right now at 9:30, going to bed, reading my book in the evening, getting away, like eating well, drinking loads of water, training's really on point. And I'm arguably probably at one of the most optimal points in regards to energy, mindset, health, physically, mentally and all that. And I still had that day to day.
Aye.
You know what I mean? And whereas folk are almost kind of like, but I thought if you're doing this, so it's like, but then they don't realize that they then go, what's the point in doing it? They drop it. And I always say, like, essentially all that stuff, your standards, your boundaries is your guard. And essentially, like, I just had a punch thrown at me this morning, but I was still blocking it. But I felt it still. But see, if you drop all that stuff, you just drop your fucking guard. And the punch is going to seem a lot harder. And folk don't value that stuff because they're like, well, I'm not feeling good, so therefore, why am I doing it? Like, what's the point in doing it? And you're like, it's not about that. It's like, you are a reflection of your standards. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I was just about to say something we love talking to you about with clients recently is like personal standards and stuff. So like one standard that we've got, and I'm sure you've got as well, is like we just wouldn't miss a workout, even if you're feeling a bit shit. But is what we're trying to get a lot of the guys we're working with to do is like try and have those standards for yourself. Like some guys that it would be acceptable to miss a workout, and it's like you've got 4 workouts on your true coach, but you only did 2 of them. That's a low standard. Like your standard has to become like a sort of a certain level if you want to do well and stuff. Like I would be, and I know we are like coaches and stuff for that, but I would be devastated with myself if I missed a workout and stuff. Like unless I was unwell, which happens. But if it's like you just didn't do it, it'd be like, no, what are you doing, man? Come on. Like, it's like, what is your standard you're trying to hit?
100%. And that's what I was even saying earlier. And that was the thought process that went through. Is like, what would I be doing if I wasn't here? Like yesterday morning, I didn't go because I actually felt a bit sore from my training, and I had my COVID booster the night before, so I was like, my arm was pretty sore, so I was like, I'll leave it this morning, which is fine. And then I was like, but today was just like, I was 100% going. It was locked in. There was no way. But it was like, I was like, if I don't do this, I'll feel soft tomorrow. If I feel soft tomorrow, I won't feel myself. If I don't feel myself, I won't be able to truly authentically show up. I won't be able to
be what's the trade-off? I know I don't really want this. What's the trade-off of not doing it?
Yeah.
I've had weeks where like I've fucked about, and then I've had days I'm not feeling it, and then I've ended up having to go and do workouts on a Sunday morning when I don't want to be training. It's like, it's just so fucking annoying, man. Why am I here on a Sunday type thing? Like, it's like, just get it done, man.
I done a training a couple of weeks ago, one of our open offices, and it was on confidence. And one of the things I was talking about, and I was like talking about confidence, and I was like, see, if you want to have the worst confidence in the world, just don't show up ever, because you'll just like, see, every time you don't show up when you were meant to, that's a wee bit less confidence you've got in yourself. I was like, and like, people
cements the story of like, you always give up.
People think like confidence is like, oh, there's a guy that's confident. It's not. It's like, it's a guy who just shows up and keeps doing things repeatedly. That's all confidence is. Like, you'll build confidence. Like, we're not like, none of, like, see, I bet there's times in our life where every one of us have probably felt like you lack confidence, and it's like just through repeatedly showing up that it starts to get better.
I used to get crippling anxiety at the thought of talking in front of folk. Used to be like actually like crippling anxiety, man, like to the point where I was like heart beating through my chest, man. Just to go like that, like be in a room and it'd be like, probably looking back at flying the wall, my head there was all this boom 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 boom, sweat,
man.
Like beating faster and faster. What I say? But if you were to like zoom out, it would just be me going like that.
Just standing there.
But the perception you've got in your mind.
Perception, because it's just what you believe, like, I can't do this. And it's like, but the reality is that's just all down to that self-talk, innit? Like, just like... It's
fascinating how when you put yourself into these situations and then you look back now, reflecting, it's like, that's no longer a big deal. We're sitting here, like, pretty chilled. I remember when we did our first podcast and we had guests on and stuff like that. You'd be flapping about all over the place and stuff like that, and talking dead fast, and shit, I made a mistake, and you just expose yourself to a wee bit more than you're capable of doing. Something that makes you nervous, and then that doesn't really make you nervous anymore and stuff. I did a best man speech in December there at my mate's wedding, and my best mate's dad, the guy who was getting married, his dad, he was he is a public speaker. Like, he works for the government, he speaks publicly every day, and you've never seen a guy's fucking cool as a cucumber. And I was fucking nervous, man, because I mean, I've maybe spoken public a couple of times, but not much. And I'm listening to this guy talking, I'm like, oh my God, man. And his speech was incredible, and I'm like, God, and in my head I'm like, God, everyone's gonna think my fanny, my heart's fucking pounding, all that kind of stuff. My speech is gonna be much worse, but then you get up and it's fine. Then after it, you feel 10 feet tall after it, man. Like,
Mine's
stuff
is better than his.
You're saying, mate.
Totally, man. But it's just putting yourself in these positions and just having it. Sometimes it just comes down to courage.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's the courageousness to take that first step in it, to
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
go into the unknown. And like, it's funny. Like I'm telling my clients that I do it all the time. Like we've got a big event. Me, Sylvester, and Lewis are
Seen that,
organising
aye.
an event, and the aim is to get like 100 people there. It's going to be quite like, it's going to be good. Do you know what I mean? Like
Aye,
it's
absolutely,
going to
man.
be good. 100%. It's going to be good. But like, it's making me feel net. I've done a good bit of public speaking now to like pharmaceutical plants and stuff, but this is going to be like on a completely another scale level. And I'm looking forward to it, but I know I'll be nervous even today, because it was like that sort of like, but I was like, and I was sitting smiling in my car driving in, the sun was in, I had my shades on, tunes on, and I was like doing that thing again when I lean into that, and you're just going, you know that you're going to get better from it. And
It's
I was
totally shifting your perception of scary stuff.
yeah,
It's
and I was
huge, man.
and I was saying to my, like, I was sitting yesterday, I never said this to my client yesterday. I was on his podcast, first ever one, and I said to him afterwards, I went, mate, you're about to do some amount of growing. Like you're like just through this, like you're gonna do, like you're gonna pick up so much, you're gonna develop yourself in so many ways that
And it'll probably be so, see what we talked about at the start, slow and gradual. That
Gradual.
You don't even notice you're growing until
Yeah.
you stop and take stock.
yeah,
Kind of thing.
and it'll be like it'll benefit things like just communication, networking, just how you like. Because I said the other day to my client, I says, people aren't great communicators. That means that they're shite at communicating with themselves. So loads of folk are very undecisive. So that if you get better at communicating with other people, you get better at communicating with yourself, and you're able to actually figure out thought processes. And like what I was talking about there, like turning a like sort of when I was driving in and I was like, oh, it's that, I'm going to be doing that thing again where I grow a bit more, I develop, and this is going to be another chapter, and this is going to be
It's so cool, that, man. Like, see the thing, the thing that we're all kind of members of the business program and stuff. Like, one of the things they always talk about is kind of leaning into that feeling of nerves and discomfort and like embracing it. And it's something I wish more guys could learn, is like, see if you embrace the fact, because we've had guys on phone consultations, guys that have worked with us, and they're terrified to sign up with us in case they fail. And it's like, but see the fact that you're nervous about it, it shows you need to go and do it, man. Like, lean
See,
into
even
it,
the
embrace
calls
it.
that we do, like I remember at first, like remember how we were fucking shitting ourselves. They go like at first we're like, oh fuck, what's
Just to
going on?
phone somebody.
Like these calls to try and get people to sign up. You're like, oh shit. And then like you do one, made a wee bit of an arse yet. You do two, you make a wee
Slightly
bit less
than
of an
arse
arse
yet,
yet.
aye,
And then see now, like even last night, like I was still nervous, but I go on and I know what I need to do. I know what I need, because I've practiced and I've fucked up a few.
that's
Just,
it.
you just
You
learn
just get
through.
stuck into
It's
it,
just
man, aye.
repetition
Yeah.
and keeping doing it.
And I loved that story you said in your story the other day, where I actually showed people that, where you were chatting about, I feel bad for that guy though, man. He never signed up
Because he's misses.
because he's misses. But see, because you've spoke to that many folk, you're so convicted in what you would have been convicted in what you've done anyway. But because you know how to communicate that better now, it's actually, you can speak with conviction going, I feel bad. Like I actually
Aye,
feel
aye.
bad, to the point where, and that's the same as me. It's like it's amazing. And folk don't, I wish people, like, even when I would go through any process, like when I done my Ironman last year, I remember doing it and being like, oh, I'm really subjecting myself to this stuff the most I ever have. Like this really, like learning to swim when I couldn't swim.
That's like the ultimate.
Do you know what I mean?
We were talking at the start about like the fear of stuff. Like, I'm terrified of like swimming underwater, and we're talking about like cave diving and stuff. That's mental. But like the amount of growth and change you must experience from
Yeah.
doing that must have been wild, man.
I know, but no, it's funny thing is, like I would have thought when you done something like that, you would end up being like, I thought that'll be it. That'll be,
I completed it.
and it's actually made me, I wouldn't say like, I would have thought previously I was fitter than what I am now. Like I would have thought like, and I actually feel more humble now. Like it's weird. Like I'm more of a novice, more of a white belt, because I've tried my hand in different things and seen that, like, do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's just like the more you do things, the more, I suppose it's that, as the saying goes, like the more you succeed, the less it feels like succeeding. And then it's like, you kind of just go, well, anyone can do anything. Like, yeah. And I listen to people talk all the time. And like my parents will kill me for saying this, but like the other day I was like, I talked them into actually signing up for, not kill me for saying this, but I talked them into signing up with a property investor. And it's essentially like AN for property investors.
Aye.
And it was a big investment and all that. And I was like, but all the stories were there about why they couldn't do it. And I was just calling them out on it. And they went to it and they went, that Paul McFadden sounds like you, Christian. Like, and they were like, but
That's class.
I
man.
loved it. And they've leaned into that. And I was like, you're about to do so much growing you're about to see so many, but just I wish more folk knew that, like that what's going to come from that sort of coming out the other side. But it's crazy. Like we will tell ourselves, like even with the Ironman thing, like I done that. I couldn't swim. I wasn't an iron distance triathlete. It was my first triathlon, right? Had never done anything like that. If I can do that, then you can do whatever you want. And people even say, they'll go, oh, I don't have the mental capacity to do that. I used to say that. I used to say that about that. So it just shows you that story's a load of shit. Do you know what I mean? Like it's totally made up. You've told yourself,
100%.
if you've closed something off, I couldn't do that. You're like, why not? And obviously there's certain things that you can't just, like, if I said, oh, I'm going to be a mountain runner, I'll go and sign up to the Dragon Spine Run in Wales. I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd probably need about 3 years training.
Not yet, man.
But not yet, like right now. But what I'm saying is there's like, and I suppose that like belief just trumps skill and ability every single day. Do you know what I mean? Like if you just turned up and if you just like, someone just threw you in and you had that belief that you could do it, you wouldn't be that good, like you were saying in the calls now, but you're like, I'll figure it out.
Aye, that's
You know what I mean?
like, I think, see, like when they talk about like physical strength and mental strength, the same. Like, see, and you always see this. Sometimes it's a bit cheesy when people talk about it. But like, if you want to get stronger, like, see, if you want to get like, if you want your muscles to grow, like, you need to put them through stress. And it's the same way. Like, people would probably look at us having done challenges and think, oh, they've got brilliant mental strength. And it's like, nah, I used to be weak as shit when like mentally,
Yeah.
but I literally just through time just kept going, right, I'll do this challenge. And it could be like, for somebody, it could be running a 5K, and then it's like, right, run a 10K. And like you just build on it, and slowly but
Yeah,
surely
and it doesn't
things
have to
just
be.
start
If you can't even run, it probably shouldn't be an Ironman. But I always think, I read somewhere that should be 5 to 10% beyond your current capacity is where you should be pushing yourself for your goals. Maybe sometimes bigger, like maybe your Ironman was a lot more of a stretch than that.
Yeah.
But just a wee bit more than you can do just now, and then the next thing is right, what's next? And
Yeah.
I think any guy that we talked at the start about guys, people wanting to like personal development, self-development, the best thing I think you can do is seek out these things that are just a wee bit beyond what you can do.
Yeah.
And then what's the next thing? Like
It should make your boss thing go a bit if you sign up to
You
it.
should
I don't know what the
yourself.
equivalent.
Yeah.
I don't know what the equivalent is for a female there, but but you should have a
make your fanny flutter.
yeah. See, you shouldn't be doing it. Like I say to some of my clients sometimes, if they say something to me and I go, not big enough.
We
Nah,
said
we
it
do
to
that all
clients.
the time.
Doesn't excite me.
I was
Boring.
texting a guy yesterday and I was like, what's the goals for this year? And he was like, I think next challenge would be to climb Ben Nevis. And I said, you
Go
could
and
do
do it
it. I
tomorrow.
said, you could do it tomorrow. I said, that's not a challenge. And he was
Aye.
like, oh, right, okay.
Or when folks say things like half marathon, you're like, what you run like now? 9 miles. That's your goal for the year, to run an extra 4 miles.
you could do it in a day.
Like,
Like you
it's
could
like-
do it
it's-
tomorrow.
It's just
Stretch
this,
yourself,
it's
man,
just you
aye.
need to subject yourself to that. And I totally get, like I get the levels, and I get but as a coach, and like the same as you guys, like you have subjected yourself to these discomforts, these challenges, these things that you're focusing towards. But it's just, I hear it all the time in conversation where folk are just immediately doubting themselves, and it's like you will be the same. Like you'll be hearing them in conversation. When you talk to maybe a lot of other coaches, you don't hear it as much because you know that they're on the same wavelength as you. Whereas, and look, don't get me wrong, there'll be things that I would say that you usually go, no, Christian, you could easily do that. And there'll be things that you say that I go, no, you could do that. But like you just hear it in conversation so much when someone's never really subjected themselves to discomfort. There's so much doubt around what they're actually able to do.
See, when I always laugh. You see, like, if I talk about anything to do with like training or half marathons or marathons in front of mates, they all just go, fuck that.
So they've got quite an open
What the
mindset,
fuck
aye.
would you want to do that for?
That's it, innit? And it's, I suppose, if you're only surrounded by people, and there's nothing wrong being surrounded by people like that, but if that's your reality,
Aye.
that's your normalized thinking behavior, and it takes a lot to.
Affects you how you think.
It does. So I think that's why that success comes from desperation and inspiration, because you can only go so much and then you'll crack. And that was me when there was so many folk in the military telling me that, like, the grass isn't always greener. You can't do that. 10 and a penny or a PT. And it was like all these voices, but in my head I was like, I've been sitting in this for 2 years, man. And it's the same what we were talking about. That inspired that post that I wrote on Monday about you going traveling. And I said, have you had, because I'm doing it as well, and I was like, have you had those wee voices in your head and you were like, the ones telling you that nobody will want to work with you?
Aye.
And I was like, that's the same voices that someone would get when they say, I want to run a 10K, and they go, I couldn't do that. It's the exact same voice.
I want to sign up with a coach, but you can't afford it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like,
And it's just all these things, like your body and your brain likes you to stay stuck because it's safe. And that's like, see, when you don't have the knowledge of like this discomfort and stuff like that, like your body's just always trying to keep you there. And it's like, so when you more and more you expose yourself to it, and the more you learn, it's like these are just stories, just try to keep me stuck here.
So it is, and it's funny because like I've been talking about it, and I've been talking to my mum about the stories with traveling. Then she was talking about the thing with the property development. I was going, "You're just doing what I was saying." Yeah, but see if you can take on it. It's nothing wrong with saying it because they're never going to go away.
You're always going to doubt yourself.
You're always going to doubt yourself. But if you can be aware of it, then you will. That's how you own it.
Yeah.
See if you can go, I'm doing that wee thing again.
And if stuff's got self-doubt attached to it, it's probably a really good thing for you to do.
Yeah, 100%. And I like see something that, and it's something I encourage all my, I know that you guys have probably been into it as well, and it's something I've really worked on the past year, but journaling. See, actually putting your thoughts onto paper and actually just going like writing it down, and it gives me such clarity. And I think as you think bigger, you have to do it. Like you can't, like, it almost comes a point if you want to really operate at a high level, if you want to really, really achieve good things, you're going to have to really try and be a master of your own mind. Do you know what I mean? You're going to have to be in like a non sort of cliche way. Do you know what I mean? You're going to have to be able to go, I'm doing that thing again. I'm just
100%.
Do you know what I mean? I'm
when you see it on paper, it's just the thing. Whereas in your head, it's got all the drama attached to it, all the emotion, you can be having a really bad day and everything feels dead negative. You can be having a good day and everything feels dead positive. But when it's on paper, it's just black and white. There's no emotion. It's just, this is fact.
Yeah, there was something that my coach Joe Parrish said to me, and it was like, when you've got an idea, like, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and you're a busy person, you've got a lot of stuff going on, the beautiful ideas, like a wee symphony at the back of your head, right? See at the front, there's a big trumpet, just blasting, right? Just blasting, right? And see when you journal and you write things down, or you have a coach and they ask you a question or whatever, it just quiets the trumpet. And
That's
then you go,
analogy, man.
and you go like that. I can hear it now, right? And that's what folk don't. And the funny thing is, I was talking to someone about this before, just then I said to you, I was laughing, I was just saying, I was shouting at somebody in DMs. And basically I was saying to the person, they were talking about like finances and stuff. And I said, look, at the end of the day, I was like, that's going back to come forward. You need to go forward. Like it was like basically talking about like, in 4 or 6 weeks or something. And I was like, why not do it now? Nothing's going to change in 4 or 6 weeks. Like it's just a story. Because like you have to lean into that now and do it and take ownership of it. It's just if he listens to this, he'll be like, oh my God.
See the thing with finances. Like remember the first program I signed up to, I was shitting myself. And I was like, I think it was the first proper one, it was Paul Mort's Transformation. And I think it was about 350 quid a month. And I used money, right, as a justification. And every month I had the money there. But it was just like the fear of spending it. And it's like, what if I don't get anything for this?
Just a story keeping you
stuck.
Because it's almost kind of like you want to hold all your money to keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
See, the more we've done, like now we're like probably rash. We invest in money in ourselves.
A bit stupid.
But like you learn, like see even the program we're in, like it costs fucking a lot of money. But see if you want to, this is the biggest thing I've learned for investing. See if you want to take yourself seriously as a person.
Yeah.
Invest big money in yourself, because you'll never take yourself seriously until you do.
Yeah.
Like, and I've noticed like the bigger and higher the investment's got, the more you take yourself seriously, and the more you think of yourself as like, I'm a serious person, like I can get these results. Whereas see when you're only investing wee bits, you don't take the program serious and you don't really take yourself seriously.
You waste time trying to do it on your own. You just fuck about, man. It's like you could have done that months ago.
I always joke about this, and there was a guy that when I worked in the gym, this was like 4 or 5 years ago when I worked in it was lifestyle fitness, and it changed to gym group, and at the time I was like doing wee bits of, like when I say wee bits of investment, it was like Video Leap. The app, like, paid for £75. Yeah. Right. And I remember like, but at the time it was like this was like when I was new, and I'd never like, it was almost like everything's just sort of in, and you're like, well, I don't really want to put anything back out. I know what I know. And it's like, but the funny thing is, it's like, it's not until you start doing it that you see it. And it starts off with those tiny things. It might be like paying for a book. It might be like, but it's because it's like that. It's like, you can't, I know you can hold on to a book, and I know you can hold on to a course or whatever, but it's like the bit that you want to gain from it is you can't hold on to it.
It's not tangible.
It's not tangible. So people then go like, I can't do that. But I remember in the gym, and I'd used that app, and there was a guy that's like to me, he was like, what app do you use? And I was like, it's like £8 a month or something. He's like, that's steep, man.
You're fucked. See
if that's your mentality. You're fucked. That guy's actually no longer a coach.
I mean, that's
not surprising, man.
See lift the bar. I always say, like, I've said to a few new PTs, I'm like, see if you got to something like lift the bar, it'll teach you the basics and it'll give you a good base knowledge. And they're like, how much is it? And I think it's like £36 a month, and they're like, I couldn't afford that. And I'm like, but you expect your client to pay you 30 to 40 quid an hour?
Aye. Yeah, Balenciaga's cost 900 quid,
Aye,
man.
so
That's
like,
the most mental thing in the world, isn't it, man?
I know.
How do kids afford clothes nowadays?
I know, man.
That's a bit of a tangent, but I mean, it's wild, man.
It's true though, man. Like it's
Every wee guy's got a Stone Island jumper that costs 250
no,
quid.
and a
50
Canada
quid for a jumper.
and a Canada Goose.
aye.
Aye.
We'll go walk down the tune after this, man, and just see everything Canada Gooses, man. But then apparently,
How do you afford
investing in
that?
yourself is a lot.
I remember when I was a kid at school, right? That's a bit of a tangent, man, right? But when I was at school, everybody had, and even at this time, it was really expensive clothes. Like everyone wore these Rockport boots, like 200 quid. And
I did have a pair of them, to be fair. My mum did buy.
my
A few
mom,
wallabies.
honestly, my mom, rightly so, right, said, "Are you fuck getting them? No way am I buying you them." So I got a pair which were fake, and Rockford. And one day everybody was like, "Oh, nice boots, man." I was like, "Aye, cheers." And then one day somebody noticed, man, that was fucking. I was just devastated.
That I remember, like when I was at school, when I was younger. This is a pure tangent again, man, but it's relevant. Like I remember that, like everybody was getting a Bergos, man, or a Merapeak, and I got a Helly Hansen.
Mate, I don't think I remember I wanted a Merapeak. My mum got me like, even now I look back and think it's still a fucking good jacket. We've all got one, you know. She got me a North Face and I was like, fucking embarrassing, man. Like getting into in a North Face is still a fucking belter of a jacket.
That's madness, man. So anyway, that was a pure mega tangent. Apologies, man.
No, but it's true. It was. I don't even know how we got to. We're talking about like the wee stories you tell yourself, and then we're talking about Helly Hansen.
Costa stuff.
It's true. It's true though, isn't it? Like it's like. It is, I think that's the thing now, and this is something I was talking about yesterday. It's just like folk when you can't grab something, but it is hesitant. But again, it's that wee story, or it's the unknown. You don't know what it's actually going to take you. But and it was my
you
parents.
are having to put a lot of trust in a coach if you're signing up.
That's
It's like I'm giving you a lot of money for essentially cosmic fairy dust at the moment.
Yeah, and that's I was telling my mum and that they were basically because they made quite an investment to do that and stuff as well, and essentially they said to a few folk already, and I won't name any names of that, but someone was like, "Oh, I know someone that done that and it didn't work." And I was like, "That's the story starting for other folk because what comes." And I suppose when you're going into that change, you are the most volatile and exposed you can be. So see if you have made you've invested like that fairy dust, like the cosmic fairy dust,
Yeah.
But then if there's doubt there and you speak to your pal, you need to understand if your pal's never done that or they're
Speak
exempt.
to your missus is obviously going to talk you out of it.
I know, like it's always. Do you know what I mean? It's like folk they'll speak to their partner, and then immediately their partner goes, "No, like."
They just look at the sum.
Yeah.
They don't like. They see the guy. Like I was trying to explain to him. I'm like, have you said to
Poor
your
guy.
missus, like, have you actually explained how with the position you're in and how shit you feel? When he's a bit like, and I'm like, so she probably doesn't really understand. So she's just looking and going, £1,000, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't understand that it's actually impacting your happiness, like how you feel day to day, your relationship with her and the kids because you feel shit and you're snapping at them, like and all these different things. And he just didn't.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. It is a shame.
It's hard because people don't know what they don't know because they don't know it.
Aye.
And and then if you have then spent a while talking to someone about it, they've made them aware, then you would have to go and kind of have that conversation, unless that person was a strong-willed person, which if they're in a pure place of pain, not that they're not strong-willed, but they're in a place where they're quite emotionally volatile. They're a bit like
fragile.
do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's a hard one, isn't it? And
especially this time of year, January, like everybody's still kind of got the fear a wee bit.
I've
and
never
all this kind of
experienced
stuff,
a
like.
January like this, and I was actually obviously like a lot of folk within the community we're in. It's like it's been the strangest January for the fitness industry, I reckon. And this was my assumption, was that I think we didn't have Christmas last year, not last year, the year before. We did have it, but we didn't. This was the first proper Christmas, and essentially
there was no nights out. There was no all this.
So it was almost as if folk went really hard with nights out, really hard with buying stuff, really hard. Do you know what I mean? With food, with letting themselves go. And I think
Fury, man,
it was like, so I remember the first 2 weeks in January there, it was almost like the third week was the start of the year. Like it was almost as if like folk were just like just, I was just chatting to folk and stuff and I was like, this is weird. Like it's just really strange. Folk were just like,
yeah, much so, man.
Yeah, it was really, really odd. And that's my sort of theory, is that we hadn't had a Christmas like that in 2 years, and almost as if folk sent it too hard.
Aye.
Financially, like emotionally,
So
physically.
I've even noticed
Skin burnt out.
See on our Instagram, but I would agree with you. So like, see, normally like you're looking like 3rd, 4th of January, right? You'll see everybody posting their pictures. I remember running about them. I was like, I'm not really seeing that many people posting pictures of being in the gym. And I think it's this last week. We'll see on our story and like on our feed, you see so many people now back at it in the gym, like posting pictures of their runs, posting pictures of them in the gym. And whereas like that's normally first week of January, whereas it seems like it's last week this year.
Yeah, and I also think with the work holidays tied in with that as well, because a lot of people's works, so the holidays, their 2 weeks holidays started on the 24th, so they were kind of off.
True,
Do you know what I mean? Because I had a few folk that were like first week, they ended up like booking calls and stuff to come in the second week. And it was like folk just like heads up their arse for that first week because they were just still in holiday mode. Do you know what I mean?
Totally, man.
But like I think, like I definitely noticed like it's been a crazy start to the year in the sense that I think folk were just they had the carpet swept out from underneath them at Christmas there. Do you know what I mean? Like folks' guards were down, they were getting punched, getting jabbed left, right, and
There's
centre.
just been a big recovery period, like that.
Well, everything shut in Boxing Day, wasn't it, as well? So like,
Yeah.
I do think as well, like see with things like with that kind of delay with things shutting and like pubs reopening. I think because people almost get, because normally Christmas, New Year's a big time for drinking. I think a lot of people get it took away from them.
Yeah.
And they've probably like let it continue into January a wee bit because they've wanted to go back into pubs, go for a few pints and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the knock-on impact on.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But I know it's definitely noticeable. So see, like out of like the guys that you typically work with as well, and you're talking about maybe folk that are kind of 95ers living for the weekend, they're chasing that sort of pleasure all the time. Like, what would you think's the sort of like what do you think's the biggest obstacle for them getting out of that? And what's your sort of main? I know it's a very open question, but like, and
one thing I would suggest possibly is what we talked about just there: self-doubt.
Yeah,
Self-doubt.
Just not believing you can do it. Like, just like you can do anything you want with your life, like you talked about, man. And it's like the stories of like, but why I couldn't. And I think often these stories come from lack of belief because there've been so many times that maybe guys have tried to get in shape and they fucked it. So that maybe if they've tried 20 times, they start again like, I'm just going to fuck this again. And then it's like, that seeps into like, you could probably go and start your own business and be really successful and that kind of stuff, but it's like, I'll probably fuck that as well because they've just got this belief about themselves.
yeah.
And it's almost like, see, I think that's why what we do is so amazing, man. Not just us, like yourself as well, man, just as coaches. I mean, like, see when you show people that they can achieve one thing that they could never do before, all of a sudden they're like, they want to go and start doing other stuff because it's like, I might not fuck that up. And all of a sudden, the confidence is creeping back in. But I think it's the self-doubt and the stories are probably the biggest obstacle, I would say.
Yeah. And I think when someone's living a sort of party lifestyle, you are so up and down.
Oh, God, man, aye.
You're so you're
Spend
almost
half the week in a self-doubt.
yeah, and
state,
it's not just the day of, it's the days after. It's like 5-6 days after. And folk, and I think like people go into it, like I've had clients like that have and will get clients like this where they go through phases where they have that sort of purge where they make some really good progress. Then as you were talking about what we done even when we were in the gyms and you went, oh, I shouldn't do this because I'm a coach. And then you went, well, I've got 30 clients now. I'll just start going out again and all that. I'll get some decent money and stuff. And it's the same way like folk go through these, but it's all part of it. But I always say to my clients when they go through that time, there couldn't be a more important time to continually to show up because that's that emotional cycle. Like, what is it? The valley of despair.
The emotional cycle of change.
Yeah, well, literally, you're like, no, you need to now. This is the most important time. That's when the stories come. No, you don't know. You do not know where I am. Like, it's like,
but I think that's like kind of lack of confidence in guys to do stuff. What you were talking about there, that party lifestyle, like. A lot of guys kind of get this thing in their head, and we've been there, but it's like, I shouldn't be doing that. I should be doing better for myself, and I should have more self-control and discipline. But see, every time you've got an idea in your head, I'm not going to do that, and you end up doing it anyway because it's fun. Let's face it. Then the story goes, oh, fuck that again. I always fuck it. Like, so it just cements that belief in yourself. Like,
do you know what a big turning point for me was? And we were talking about it earlier, like when I just became really true to myself, like when I was like
take the pressure off yourself almost.
Like, so like, and I've seen a lot of coaches do this, and even still with the sort of a lot of the coaches in the community we're in, because you're operating on that sort of bandwidth of you're trying to talk about like such high level conversations that we are right now. So it's like, well, I shouldn't be getting bevied, and it's like I couldn't disagree more because you're dehumanizing yourself, and if like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to go and like I'm the reason why I'm no drinking the first few months of the year was purely because at the end of last year I drank my standards in regards to my limitations and what I would usually do. It wasn't that I was unhappy with myself. It was like I let them slip a wee bit in the last quarter of that year. I'm just going to literally take ownership of that wee bit and just see what this is like for a wee bit. And it's just curiosity, and it's just asking yourself those questions. Whereas before I would have been like, oh, you're such a tit, Christian. You acted like a fool there. And you didn't. You're just a human. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you probably had a great time at the time, but you just forgot about it because.
And that's the point of between like when it's like that sort of the happiness and pleasure part, and it's like what? So you shouldn't chase pleasures. No, you should. Like if you genuinely enjoy having a night where you get pure like
There's so much benefit to it.
Yeah.
It's
It's
amazing. Your mates
I
or
don't-
that kind of stuff.
See if you don't like a night out, you'd be weird.
yeah,
I would find it weird.
yeah.
I think that as we get older, I think there's almost this pressure to like grow up, and it's like, but if you enjoy that stuff and it's like what you're into, as long as it doesn't impact everything.
Yeah, who says you shouldn't go and do these?
So
things?
that's it.
Nobody,
And
man.
like, see, the thing that I really noticed was, see now, if I go out and I get pure blazing, I go out the next day. How was a class night?
Aye.
Right, that's the difference. Whereas,
Yeah.
see, if you're saying that was a rubbish night,
Take
that's-
yourself out of the situation. Just look at
yeah,
it,
you
man.
don't. It's like, see, if you're every time you're bevying and you're unhappy with the way you acted, you're unhappy with the point afterwards. I'm not saying that if I've got a bad hangover that I'm happy with that, but like I always go like that. Like there's been so many nights last year that we had, like we went to like events just when they started opening back up and things, and I'll just be sitting laughing the next day like, that was a class day yesterday.
Aye, what a
Whereas,
laugh, man. Good
see, if you're
memories.
not doing that and you're just doing that life because it's what you do.
every weekend, it's boring.
There was a
like,
quote,
yeah.
and I think it was like, sorry, I was interrupting there, mate.
Not
but,
at all, mate, no.
Basically, it was like you shouldn't drink to have a good time. You should drink to have a better time,
Yes.
or something
It's
like
to
that.
enhance, like
It's
it's to enhance an
yeah.
experience.
It shouldn't
Aye.
be like just what you do because what you do it. And I feel like last year, just with the time, like moving my business online, having a lot more freedom and stuff like that, really good boundaries and just good standards. With like now, I feel like my standards are arguably one of the best places I've been in. But like, I just was like in such a probably the best relationship I've had with booze all my life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's gradual. That's like, do you know what I mean? And that's not saying that's it forever. As I said, last quarter last year, I was like, there was a few bad hangovers in there, man. Like, I was on holiday and then I was at a wedding and I was like some big send-off
That's
sessions.
life, but that happens.
Yeah, and it's like, but then you take yourself out of it and you go, that was class, but I'm just going to kind of deload a wee bit for now because it's not really
Yeah,
serving me
yeah.
to it. Because that was the thing that I started to see that I've had a bit too much of that. Not from I feel like I've had a bit too much, not from I think I've had a bit too much of it, more from I genuinely feel a bit done in here.
Yeah.
Be doing that a bit too much, so therefore I'm going to come away from it a bit. Whereas folk are in this sort of, should I be doing that? Or
that's,
like,
that's I see that should I be doing that and then convince yourself you're off it forever. Like that's a really bad relationship with booze. Whereas what you were talking about there's a really good relationship with booze and stuff. Like
yeah.
taking a wee period off it and then enjoying it when you do it and all this kind of
and
stuff.
actually
like,
being like in that what I was saying, and you're never going to, alcohol's like it's a drug in it. It sends you absolutely doolally. You're not going to be on it going, is this enhancing my mood right now? Or is this
you're not getting a fuck, are you?
You're literally not giving a hell, man. So it's more like, I'm not talking about it from a way like I'm pure journaling when I'm bevying. Like this is really good.
A wee book it.
A wee book in my
Pint
armchair.
number 3.
feel quite
Time's
nice.
not picking up.
Feel quite good now.
Pint number 4, a little bit depressed. Right, stop now.
Felt cute, Mike Lee there. Uploading stories that I shouldn't
Later on,
upload.
there's these things are just you can't even read them.
But like, I'm just talking about it from like, I'm trying to like talk about it from a point of view that's like, that's how I feel like with it now. Like I feel like I'm in a, and I think that's such a powerful thing. Like doing it, like whereas before I remember like actually going out and I was like, felt like I had to drink. Do you know what I mean? Like I was like, I don't want to feel that way. And it was like going, oh, I'm going to be that tired way for 3 days. And oh man, like, but it's what everyone does. And I'll be missing out.
Guilty and all that kind of stuff after it.
But see, because I'm so clear on my values now, I'm so clear on what makes me feel good, what makes me feel happy. See, if someone asked me that like, say for example, we were dead close and you met a night out and you didn't ask me, I wouldn't be bothered anymore because I'd be like, I'm not like, do you know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't be like a sort of, whereas before it would have been the pure, am I missing out?
Aye,
Whereas I'd be
totally.
like that now, like, oh, they've just not asked me because they've forgotten. Like, that's fine.
Aye.
Whereas I'd have been like, I'm missing out.
We're away
what's going on
talking
here?
about you slagging you off.
It'll be a journaling pints.
Podcast with shit, man.
Christian's a shite bag, writing it down. Pint 5. Christian's a dick.
See, I recorded a training for our lab yesterday, and it was on like redefining your relationship with booze. And one of the things I in the thing, I'm like, write 2 lists here, and I'm write a list of situations you enjoy alcohol in, and write a list of situations where you don't. And like I gave an example, and it was like festivals, like weddings, like when you've not seen people in a while. And the list I was like, when you don't like it, and I was like, just sitting in heads needlessly, ended up back in people's houses, like sitting in shitty local pubs. And I'm like, see, if you start to piece this together, you'll start to understand like scenarios that you'll be comfortable, that you'll see after it, see what you're talking about, that guilt won't be there.
Yeah.
Like, see, if I go to a festival, I never feel guilty after it.
No.
I feel
Because the ones you enjoy are things that time with your values more.
yes.
Whereas
Yeah.
other stuff, like nobody really values sitting in a pissy old man booze and that kind of stuff on a
Or a-
Sunday
or a-
afternoon because you're bored.
Aye, or a random flat that you've ended
Aye.
up in.
Aye,
You've
You
been
don't
told-
know empty.
You end up just sitting like 7 in looking at two people thinking, why?
I have had a couple of good
times.
times in those flats, man.
Oh, 100%.
A
See,
few-
to be fair, aye, you definitely do.
that was my highest values at that point.
Same, man.
I still, me and him have got we always talk, we've got a dream to end up in a Berlin house party. We love
Aye.
Berlin, and we
Aye,
just
Berlin's class,
we
innit?
just want to end up in a random like party with hundreds
I
of
feel
Germans.
it over there though. They party differently for the way
They're
they
better at it like they are with everything in life.
Aye, I know. They are efficient as hell.
Oh, God.
Efficient partiers.
They even like see there, like they party and it's nice and enjoyable. Like people party here and want to kill each other.
we can't be trusted to have a bevy at the football.
I know.
Whereas every other country, they're standing with a
I remember I was in the San Siro just sitting watching. I went to the Milan Derby and I was literally just sitting with a pint.
This is
And I was
amazing.
like, I think I had about 5 pints during the game.
Did
and
you
it was
ever
fucking
see
amazing.
when I was younger? Me and the boys went, but we ruined it though. We went a Euro trip, man, and it's almost as if because we were denied of it. We were like, yeah, you can smoke in here, man. You can do it, like, and you're like that, and you were pure taking the piss out of it. And looking back, like, I even looked. Me and my girlfriend went to. We were driving back. Went to see a wee niece for the first time recently. Went to Sunderland the way back, and I was like, why don't we go by my old base? It's actually up here. I lived here for 3 years. It's in Northumberland. And it was so nice going to, like, it was quite nostalgic driving back. I hadn't been there in like, what's that, probably like 7 years. And I was like, we drove by it and everything, went into the local town. And I was like, this town is beautiful. And I was like telling Ailey how it's a shithole. And I was like going, oh, we hated it, man. It was
when
just,
you're a wee guy, man,
Aye.
you're so daft, aren't you?
and I was going, this is an unbelievably beautiful town. But like at the time,
I take it that wasn't Sunderland.
No, it wasn't Sunderland. No,
Sunderland is not.
no,
a
it was
beautiful town.
Alnwick. It's where like part of like Hogwarts is filmed
Driven
and all that.
past it,
Oh,
right,
it's
yeah.
a nice wee town,
Right.
man. But we went there and we used to go. All we used it for was night suit, so it was shite.
It's weird when you're a wee guy. You're just daft,
You
aren't you?
gauge it off a pub.
Aye.
You see if a pub's a shithole, you're like, that place is fucking shite. I remember when we went in a stag do to Berlin and my mates are like, it's fucking shite. The pubs are pish. And I'm like, how not that? You can't even get a pint of attendance. And I'm like,
That's the gold standard. Isn't it?
That was like, see when we done that Euro trip with the boys and like we were just ruining it, just being like looking back at it and we were just being idiots, man. No wonder like we were getting into trouble, man.
you
Like
don't appreciate it.
I like no wonder like we're just like pure Brits abroad, didn't we? But
We
it's a
went to
great-
Budapest, man, and like we just get mad with it the whole time.
Did you go
We
to the
didn't-
baths?
No,
Mate,
we didn't
we
see it,
we
mate.
seen
I
about
got
half
steaming
a
at the
square
baths.
mile.
I was just lying at the side of
I
the baths.
didn't
wrecked.
fancy that, but because I thought it seemed quite unhygienic, man. I could imagine people.
Somebody
pissing
else
in it
said
and all
that.
man.
I would piss in it if I went, definitely.
You definitely.
I-
would.
I-
Guys
I
like you
pissed
that
in the
would put
swimming.
me off going then.
I always piss in the swimming when I go.
Aye, I think we didn't go to the party thing, but we just went to it through the day. But someone told me the party's like an orgy.
That's like Jay in between us, isn't it? The caravan club.
Somebody said that to me as well. Like that. I don't even want. But somebody said to me they seen a bird getting fingered at it. So there we go.
Oh man, how we ended up here.
I don't know. It's brilliant, man.
We were just talking about when we were proper on it. And I said we're trying to get you to be on it now the right way. No, but to be honest, I think that's pretty much everything that I was really talking about covering. On that note, I think that's a proper good way to kind of sign off things. But
No.
I just enjoy that today.
That was class,
Thanks
mate.
for having me, it's been
felt-
class.
Felt like I kept chatting for ages,
I
man.
know. But I don't even know what I don't have my notes in front of me. I don't know what else we're going to go to.
all
But I
good,
think
man.
that really kind of ties everything off there. But like, boys, honestly, thanks so much for coming on today.
No,
It's been
thanks for
absolutely
having us,
epic. And
Thank you, mate. Pleasure.
for anyone that wants to find you, like, if you want to give it a plug, what's the page and all that, Instagram and everything?